on this episode. This is my biggest episode to date. It's my 50th. That's right. I finally hit 50. And I told you, I was a man of my word that I was going to bring someone special onto my show. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm excited. I can't contain myself. I'm going to bring onto the show the one, the only, the incomparable, the Spirit Master himself. Let's welcome to the show, Andre Segarra. How you doing there, Andre? Andre, you there?
I am doing great. Hello, everybody. What's good, Spirit Squad?
Hey,
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly, my man. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, I'm here. Good morning, Spirit Squad. How is everybody doing on this happy Monday?
I'm happy. I'm jovial. I'm giddy. It's a little overcast over here in Jersey. How's everything up in upper state New York?
Actually, about the same. It's low 60s, mostly cloudy, but after the heat wave we've had, I'll take it.
Amen. It's actually been last week was an absolute brutal week. I couldn't wait for the weekend to get here because I needed to eat some ice cream and have some shaved ice. But, I'm a big guy, so what can I say? I like very fattening, desserty type of things in the heat. Now, Andre, you know what?
I am not much better about that.
Well, let me just say, I want to thank you for coming on my show. I know, you probably get tons of requests to go on other people's shows, but I thought it was a moral imperative as two spirit content makers to come together and unite the spirit community out there because of Modern's not in a good place, Pioneer's in a great place, and I want to make sure the spirit community feels reinvigorated after this episode, so we can keep on going out there and kicking ass. So let me ask you real quick, Andre.
Yeah, definitely.
What made you get into playing Magic the Gathering?
So, I've always been really into gaming and I guess nerd adjacent stuff. When I was coming up, my father even played Dungeons and Dragons way back in the day. He still has a first edition complete set of, first ed D&D books. When he was looking for all of his stuff to be complete in mint condition, I ended up having to go all the way down to, oh God, where did I finally look for a copy? I think it was Kansas City when I got the phone call that somebody else had finally found a copy of Deities and Demigods for me. So the travels trying to find all that stuff for him was pretty sweet, and that was kind of the gaming culture I was invested in my whole life. I was taught to play chess pretty early, and right around high school I learned the rules to Magic. And some of my friends played hyper casually, and I got in with them. And then I didn't play Magic for a really long time because I was invested in other games, and I finally came to tournament Magic right before Shards of Alara-ish.
Okay. Oh, well, that's actually a good set. I personally came in at the end of the Urza block, right at the beginning of Mercadian Mask, and yeah, that was an awful block. God awful block. So, I mean, what other games are you into?
I heard.
Yeah, it was, trust me, it wasn't a good time. I actually spent over, let's say, $500, $600 on boxes. Yeah, I got a really bad return on investment. That's all I'll say about that.
Yikes, I'm sorry.
So what other games are you into?
So this is going to be, I'll try to keep the list relatively short because Magic is probably my 20th or so competitive game. As far as games I've played on a really competitive level, I played Pokemon, both video game and card game. Okay. I used to be really into competitive chess and ended up getting to about a 1900 rating at my highest at one point, which is,
your master?
That means you're, no. 1900 was only rated an expert in chess. Master would be right around 21 to 2200, and then you get to international master and then grandmaster after that, and I never got anywhere near that high. So but that was fun. We got to travel for tournaments and stuff, and oh my God, that was a time to be alive. After that, I got into a few different card games, the best of which for me ended up being WWE Raw Deal, which was just a whole card game dedicated to, professional wrestling. And Actually, being from Jersey, I assume you probably know a lot of people who played that game because what was the store called? Dark Tower in Jersey had
Okay.
a lot of people who played there, including a former world champion.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
I've never heard of the game. I mean, actually, the wife and I
oh,
are actually in development of creating a wrestling game right now. But no, this is the first time I've ever heard
okay.
of WWE Raw. I'm actually like curious now. You piqued my interest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the idea of the game itself was that you had a character that you played as and you did your deck construction around that character.
Hmm.
And for your constructed deck, it had to be exactly 60 cards. And the way that you won games was actually by milling your opponent. And when you did damage with your moves, the number of damage that you did was calculated by number of cards you would mill. So if I hit you with a super kick that does 5 damage, you mill the top
Oh,
5 cards of your deck, and whoever decks first loses.
that's a brilliant idea. Like mine's far different. I think I like their version better.
The game ended up being really broken, but it was very fun.
Okay. Well, you know what I hate to say where people are fans of, they're gonna always make games. I hate to say it this way. Unfortunately, we're gonna end up seeing that with the blend of I guess Lord of the Rings and Warhammer 40,000 coming out soon. We're gonna start seeing that blend like the
Yeah.
WWE with their card game.
I mean, maybe. But at the same time, like a card game that is already a small blend of those two had already existed like 20 years ago too. I don't know if you've heard of what was it called, Legend of the Five Rings. It
No.
kind of played a lot like a mix between an RPG card game and basically Dungeons and Dragons, and it even incorporated the die rolling that you already see in regular Warhammer games.
Okay.
So like the mix of stuff was already there, and it wasn't like cheesy like, well, sorry guys, but it wasn't cheesy like Adventures of the Forgotten Realms draft or anything is with all the die rolling. It was actually like a very well implemented system. It had a lot of combat, and it felt like a good mix between tabletop Dungeons and Dragons and almost a game of Magic.
Okay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The only type of board games I've ever honestly played uh, with my family was
Hmm.
just chess. And then, of course, my friends got me into Dungeons and Dragons here and there. And I played, a rogue,
Yeah.
and, elf ranger, so on and so forth. But, like for me personally, in 1999, when I got into the game, uh, what Mortal Kombat? What am I talking about? Magic the Gathering was my thing. It was just, I never seen a card game like that. I never seen any game, and the only way I explain it to people for the layman, and I hate to say it, it's like vinegar coming out of my mouth, and I feel bad saying this, especially to Pokemon players, is it's like Pokemon for adults, but it's chess on crack. It's like 45D chess that the pieces constantly evolve, constantly change, and you have to change your way of thinking to make sure you get the victory. There's always in bridge they call it different conventions, and that's what Magic is. It's just there's certain conventions, knock your opponent down to 20, you mill them, you infect them, so on and so forth. There's those automatic wins. There's certain victories to get there. You just gotta, with the new pieces coming in and other pieces disappearing, you gotta find your way through.
Right, right. And that's why a lot of people in the industry have called Magic, I guess, the world's most complex game, which is kind of ridiculous to think about in concept. But if you take a game like chess, that is, I won't go so far as to say solved, but I think mathematically, somebody said that the first 10 moves in a game of chess, there are some 17 septillion possible combination of moves
Wow.
that you can make with the pieces on the board in the
Okay.
first 10 moves. But you'll see that there are programs like Deep Blue and stuff that can play chess better than the best grandmasters in the world right now.
Hmm.
Like that game is mathematically solved technically. It's
Right.
just that humans aren't quite good enough to actually realize all of those combinations of moves. But computers are, so that game is
Right.
solved, just not by us.
Damn our brains.
But you'll see Magic has not been solved yet.
Mm-mm. I think
It's just not a thing. Like the game cannot be solved.
that's why Arena
And
keeps
well,
on
I'm not going to say
crashing.
that because I could be wrong in the future. But for right now, Magic is a completely unsolvable game. And even though there are technically AIs that have given computers the ability to play Magic against us, like say the Arena tutorial, things like Chandelar way back in the day, and even those like really crappy PlayStation 2 games and stuff that, you could play against the computer in Magic,
Right.
those are nowhere near the level of just like your average F&M player.
Right. No,
And
that's true.
and it could be a very long time before Magic is solved. And if a game that is as old and complex as chess has been solved and Magic hasn't, that really does speak to the depth of how complex Magic is and can be. And I think that's personally fucking great. It's awesome.
Well, what I find funny is like in my personal play group, we have a total of 12 guys, but usually about, let's say 5 or 6 guys show up, and we actually play. We don't even call it a format. It's just like open. Whatever cards you can put together with vintage type rules where there's, restrictions and some bannings, we'll do that, and it's a free for all. You'll have Pauper against Pioneer versus Modern versus Legacy and Extended. It's
Oh yeah.
it's stupid. And like, I have a friend of mine named Chuck. He's actually in the movie Clerks, where he got his hand stuck in the Pringle can.
Oh.
He actually plays a.
Oh, okay.
He actually has a deck, and it's called. He has actually 2 decks that are left-handed, and meaning that if you look at the illustrations, the people in the illustration are just using their left hand. And he builds these silly decks, and they win. Like our play group is very unique, and just going with the rules. And like sometimes we literally take maybe 15-20 minutes discussing the rule that could happen or should happen, because the fact that we're playing cards from since the beginning, 1993, 1994 to modern day.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's insane. So I mean, if we as humans still struggle playing cards from yesteryear to modern day, you know what I mean? I don't think a computer will ever figure this game out. I don't think it's ever possible.
Right. Like, I mean, it could happen one day down the road. Like, people who, make all these programs are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. But at least for now, it's not even close to being solved. And I find that to be a lot of what's fun about this game because, even with the speed of the internet, information is still not able to move fast enough for this game to be solved. And like, I'm sure paid attention to how fast like modern moves. It's wild. Like if you remember Kaldheim, and when like Tybalt's Trickery, the deck was being played on the Thursday, and people were getting trophies with the deck, streaming with the deck, and by Friday afternoon, the deck was unplayable because the other Valky deck had come out already.
Yep.
Like Magic moves that fast, and it's still not solved by computers.
You kidding me? Look at the release of Modern Horizons 2. Modern Horizons 2 has changed Modern forever. Every week there is a new winner. I think this past week, I believe Living End ended up becoming the Modern Challenge winner. I'm like stupefied.
Yeah, like
last week it was the Elementals. The week before it was Hammer Time. The week before that it was Crashing Footfalls. Modern is wide open.
It moved. Yeah, like the ability to keep up it's just out there, and it's almost impossible for so many of the people who play this format that I find it really fun how fast it changes, but I also understand that like, I don't have kids to raise or anything. So like keeping up with this format when you have kids, or let's be honest, even like a dog, is probably like completely unreasonable for so many people, yeah?
Well, this is what I tell most people. If you're going to come into Modern, you really need to be careful what deck you choose. You need to be specific. You want to look at, if you're looking for the semi-broke, expect that some cards in there to be potentially banned, or, people are going to come after that deck really hard. So just be aware that may not be your best deck to use in Modern. You can go like us, we do tribal. Those tend to be more fair, more friendly decks. And for the novice coming in, it's like, oh, this is pretty fun. I didn't know I could play with merfolk or humans or elementals. This is great. I like this. But, for people coming in, it's like,
Yeah.
like me personally, it's like, take your time, look at the format, see what's going on. Yes, we want to go with the hot new sexy new thing. Like we love all hot new sexy things, right? But sometimes it's better to pull back and say, what's the safer bet? And then stick with that safer bet and continue building. Like our friend Nikachu MTG, he's a Merfolk master.
Yeah.
Merfolk hasn't been a solid archetype in how long? Until, now, with the additions, with Modern Horizons 2 coming out, it's now starting to make that push. It's starting to actually be something. And as a friend to Nikachu, and as when I first started the game, I loved Merfolk because I'm a Miami Dolphin fan. So I'm like, oh, okay, Merfolk, Dolphins, cool. I like this tribe. But then, of course, Drug School Captain and came out, and he's my hero, and I love Drug School Captain. So I'm sticking with that story.
No, that makes a lot of sense though, because I actually played Merfolk way back in the day. Like I played it at an invitational back in 2013 or 14, and I played Legacy Merfolk for a little bit. Like the deck was really fun, and it wasn't great, but it did a lot of things that I like doing.
Exactly.
It got to play the type of games that I like playing, and when I started to get into hyper competitive modern, okay, I couldn't play Merfolk anymore because the deck was honestly pretty bad. So I ended up being your Grixis Control / Splinter Twin guy for a bit, and I went from there to playing infinite different archetypes while I tried to fish around for a deck I finally liked.
Right.
And honestly, that's most of why I have so much deep modern knowledge. That's why I have so much format knowledge, is because I've played everything.
Right.
And then I saw that Caleb Dorward had won, either it was a GP or a Star City or something relatively large with Bant Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I can get behind this. This deck is somewhat medium, but it does all of the cool flash tribal stuff I already liked, because I had already played Merfolk, I had already played Slivers. God, that was my first F&M deck. It was really bad. Oh man, so yeah, anybody who wants the history of Dre. So I ended up playing a total of 5 tournaments. I actually looked this up on my Planeswalker Points page before that went away.
Oh wow.
I played a total of 5 tournaments from the time I played learn how to play Magic,
right,
up until I went to college around Mirrodin. And lucky me, I went to college right before Mirrodin came out, so I didn't have to put up with all that affinity shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
I was already out of Magic because I just wasn't playing.
Right.
So whew, on that one. But the deck I played, it was standard legal too, so there was no Aether Vial or anything else to go with the Slivers. It played all of the random Slivers that you saw in Legions and stuff.
Right.
So not even the good ones. You didn't even get Crystalline Sliver and Friends. And then I played 4 copies of either Vex or Hex. I don't remember what it was, but it was 2 in a blue. You counter target spell, and its controller draws a card. Terrible.
Awful. That's awful.
That card is bad.
Why would you play that?
Because I didn't know better cards existed. It was my first tournament. So, and this is 2002 as well. So the internet hadn't gotten really big. There were I think the Source maybe existed then, and forums were relegated to Pojo. So there was no Twitter to spread information. Facebook didn't exist yet. Hell, MySpace wasn't even a thing yet. So how do you get information? And the answer was, for the most part, you didn't, unless you knew people and could literally call them on the phone. Or you had an AOL Messenger group of friends who were already, using your username to make chat rooms so that you could sometimes set up a 1 megapixel at best webcam to play games you would on Spell Table now.
Right. I hate to say the younger generation doesn't know the struggle of MTG in their early years. Do not really realize.
Oh my god!
The
struggle was so real.
If you're Gen Z, you should be thanking God you're born in this era. Yeah, it sucks for you because you didn't have the $10 or the $5 dual lands, that are now $800-900. But
Oh
Oh, it's
man,
so much easier to
yeah, I missed that
communicate
too.
and look and investigate. Oh, like I love today's Magic. It's so nice. It's wonderful. But that leads me to my
No,
question.
today's Magic is so crazy.
Well, the
Yeah.
actually, you started going down the road, and it made me want to come ask you this question. What made you get into spirits specifically?
All right. So spirits, like I said, it already plays the kind of Magic that I enjoy playing.
Right.
Like I've always been like, the blue guy in our circle, but I've also always been like the tribal guy in our circle. Like I, played Slivers as my first deck and I tried to jam counter spells in that. I played Merfolk and I jammed counter spells in that. Like I played a bunch of these like blue tribal decks already that I was already just trying to jam random counter spells in. So, from 2002 forward, I've always been essentially trying to play spirits,
Mm,
except the archetypes I was playing sucked because there were no spirits yet.
right.
And so after I saw Caleb Dord do well with that, he also happens to be like a person who I just like knew from random like Star City Games tournaments and stuff anyway, like, just
Okay.
hung out with the guy anyway.
Very nice.
Before he, wisened up and realized that, oh crap, I'm making way more money online than I am by traveling. So F traveling, smart guy.
Right.
Um, but I saw him do well with that and I was like, all right, well, what's this deck look like? And oh, I hate Coco, but otherwise this deck does exactly the kind of stuff I like doing. Spell Queller is great. Rattle Chains is amazing. This is exactly the kind of Magic I like.
Right.
Except Supreme Phantom wasn't like a thing yet.
No, no,
So
it
I'm
was
like,
not.
so I didn't like, snap by the deck or anything like that. I was still playing Grixis Control at the time.
Okay.
And a few decks later, Supreme Phantom came out, and I'm like, oh, what's
The
this?
flash bulb hit.
What's this? Okay, let's, yeah, and like $500 or $600 later, I owned the whole deck. And I ended up I technically had my Magic Online account already, but like I wasn't playing that often.
Right.
But I definitely like bought the Spirits deck on Moto, and I played a league, and my very first league I played with Modern Spirits, it was like a Curious Obsession build too. I played Curious Obsession and Kira in the same deck for some stupid reason.
Ooh.
Like it was not good, but but I was like, I don't care. I want to play this. This looks awesome. This is exactly the kind of Magic I want to play. And I went 5-0, 10-0, and I got to like screenshot it and share it with the Magic group on Facebook that's in Syracuse.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, guys, I think I found the deck I like.
There you
And
go.
everybody saw it and was like, that deck looks terrible. I'm like, I don't care. It does exactly what I want to do at all times. Like, Mausoleum Wanderer is exactly the kind of card I want to play. Spell Queller, are you kidding? That thing might as well have my name all over it. And anybody who knew me from when I was younger was, would see the deck and be like, oh my God, that's exactly the kind of shit you like.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are, still playing the deck.
You see, you take after me. It's like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I love the interactivity of Merfolk. Like, not the interactivity. Like the synergy between Merfolk, but like you, I was a tribal person, and I loved Merfolk, and I loved clerics. And clerics, they tend to protect their own.
Okay.
Like Master Apothecary. You tap a cleric, it reduces damage by 2. That they would face. So I'd put, Beloved Chaplain, which has protection of creatures, and do so on and so forth. And there was one enchantment, I forget what it is. It's 3 generic and 1 white, where you get +1/+1 for every plane, and creature had flying. So I'd put that on one of my.
Armored Ascension?
Yes, that's it.
Is that it?
Yes, it is. So I'd put Arm Ascension
Okay.
on the Beloved Chaplain. And if people try to do anything to it before I did it, I was like, oh, I'll protect my thing. And I had protection from colors too. So, I would attack with it. I'd win the game. And everybody's like, how's a cleric flying in the air and beating me? It's like, that's what clerics do. And then when I saw spirits and how they ended up protecting their own with hexproof, I was like, I'm in. This is my tribe. It's a mix between merfolk and clerics smushed together in this wonderful sandwich. I need it. I want it. And just like you, I fell in love with spirits. So let
Yeah,
me.
like the deck was clearly like super sweet. It was basically adjacent to what I'd been trying to do for like 15 years prior.
Mm,
And I'm so glad they actually came out with them, obviously.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, there is a segment, like there's a little divide within the community. I don't understand why. It should be a shared mutual agreement in certain ways, like Azorius and Bant. I mean, I see Azorius being good in certain circumstances, Bant being better in others. But I hate to say there's sides. People are taking sides. Oh, Azorius is better and Bant is better. Like, first of all, which flavor do you prefer or enjoy playing? And do you see what I see, the delineation between both Azorius and Bant?
Yeah. So first, I'll, I guess, speak on why it's so different. A lot of people will, choose either Azorius or Bant. And the argument is usually that Azorius is the much more stable deck, while Bant is the much more powerful deck. And I actually do subscribe to that theory. Like, Bant is definitely a more powerful deck. You can draw Skull Captain on turn 2, you can Spell Queller on 2, or Skyclave, whatever you need to do.
Right.
Sometimes you get to Coco on turn 3. Mana Dorks are ultra powerful, and no one's arguing against that.
Amen.
With that said, I have always preferred the stability of blue-white. Just Azorius is exactly the kind of thing I like doing. Also, I don't like cards that are coin flips. So, and anybody who's watched my streams can attest to the fact that I don't like Coco, and Coco does not like me. We have a mutual hatred for one another, and I've accepted that. I'm okay with it.
You don't do well with Coco for some reason. I don't know why.
It is bad. I am not good at winning die rolls or coin flips, and
No.
I've accepted that as just part of my life. Like, I understand that, especially in Pioneer, like, Bant Spirits is by far the better build. Like, it's a lot more powerful. It plays at instant speed better. The Empyrean Eagle on turn 2 is much less awkward than on turn 3.
Right.
And I just cannot make the card Collected Company succeed for me in any way, shape, or form. And I've just accepted that, and I've just played a bunch of other builds.
Now, are you like this is how I also see it as well. Especially in the current modern meta, I think there are times where the Azorius build shines. There's other times, like I'd say right now, where I think the Bant deck is a little bit better because the fact that, like you said, it's a little bit more powerful, and the fact with the Coco, it vomits out creatures a lot more quicker, so we can get underneath the opponent. Are you in agreement with my way of thinking?
Yeah, actually. So I think Bant is the better suited deck for Modern right now, even with the increased number of Ren and 6s running around the format. And that's going to be true for two reasons. A, Coco is powerful enough to catch us up from scenarios where we're behind, which is going to happen fairly often. Like, right now, the format is really powerful, and keeping up with the format requires you to do some stupid powerful stuff.
Right.
Like Hammer Time, stupid powerful.
Right.
Elementals, stupid powerful. Both blue-red decks are stupid powerful. And like the Rhinos in the living ends of the world, again, just crazy powerful. So we need to be doing something either very stable or very busted to keep up with those things. And right now, well, let's be real, Spirits is neither extremely stable or extremely busted, but you can do the most stable or the most busted things, which is why a lot of people are either A, just going with Mana Dorks and Collected Company with no Aether Vials to just get the most power you can out of your deck, or playing decks like Blue-White and just jamming a crap ton of hate cards like Chalice of the Void and stuff into the deck. And that's going to be where your super stability comes in.
Well, I'm going to step away from the normal questions I would ask real quick, because I actually put out an episode yesterday for my live audio podcast, where I ended up creating a budgetary spirit deck, and how for new beginners to learn how to play the deck, or just learn how to play spirits. And an individual, reached out to me, and they wanted to know more about it. And I was like, okay, not a problem. Here you go. This is my thoughts. I put it on a podcast, not just for them. My wife even suggested doing this type of episode a while ago. But there was another person who came in and goes, you're about 2 years too late. Spirits isn't a deck anymore. You're behind the times. Maybe you should consider something else. And I'm sitting here like, well, I understand where you're coming from. Spirits may not be in the most, shall I say, in the best place right now in the current modern meta, but I'm not going to give up on it just because it's having a hard time. This is the time for me as an individual, hoping to be a master one day, where I'm going to sit there and say, no, I'm pushing forward. There's tons of cards in in modern. There has to be a way for me to push forward. You have yourself, Dr. Queller, you have Remf, Raging Pikey. There's other individuals that are out there playing modern and kicking ass with both Bant and Azorius. Both are still going 5-0s. I haven't seen anyone so far in the challenge. I think the top one, I say within the last month, was 8th place. But it doesn't mean it's now time to give up because the new hot, sexy decks are out there. It's time for us to look what we have and adapt to the format and start re-kicking ass.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's a lot of good ways for the deck to be able to adjust to the format. As a matter of fact, I'm actually in the middle of a league right now, and I'm currently 2-0, so we'll see if we can get 3 more wins out of it.
Should I watch? Because I know
what I'm doing.
Should I watch? Because I'm usually bad luck for you.
Oh, no. I'm not streaming because...
Okay.
So, no, no, unfortunately for the stream, at least for the next couple of weeks, I've switched to working overnights. So while my sleep schedule is being readjusted, I'm kind of figuring out when/how I'm going to be able to kind of continue streaming and stuff. Or if I'm just going to move to YouTube only or whatever the deal is, I will figure it out once I figure out how sleeping's going to work.
Keep me posted because I know my audience needs to know. The more spirit content makers are out there, the better it is for our tribe. So, please when you find out, let us know.
Yeah, I'm telling everybody as soon as I figure out what I'm going to be doing with my schedule and stuff, I'm definitely going to be making sure everybody knows about it because we can certainly still do a lot of winning. I just played a league late last week. I didn't get the 5-0, but I got 4-1 and I dropped my trophy to a game 3 to Elementals. Right. But I beat everybody else, I'm 2-0 right now. And these are all against some really powerful decks. I'm playing against stuff like Hammer Time. Like I said, I lost that game 3 to Elementals, beating things like both Blue-Red Blitz and Blue-Red Tempo. In the league I'm playing right now, I played against the Indomitable Creativity deck twice in a row, actually. And I ended up winning a game 1 against that deck in which they resolved creativity into Emrakul. And I won that game. Spirits has a lot of game and a lot of ability to keep up with what the format is doing. Right. But you need to be willing to adjust and you need to just keep up with the format because if you're not doing the most powerful thing, then you need to either develop a plan and make sure that plan works for you or have enough format knowledge to figure out how to play around what the format's doing if you're not willing to adjust and buy new cards. One of the two.
Okay.
But it's totally possible, and so I don't suggest anybody drop the deck if you're already playing it. It's a good deck.
I'm telling people, please stay with the deck. I mean, yeah, we may be less than 1%. We're about, I think, 0.6% of the meta. We need to go back up. I mean, this deck is too damn good to keep on dropping.
True, but honestly, even I don't know, and I say this kind of a lot too, looking at the metagame shares, don't get me wrong, there are decks like Hammer Time that are 4 to 5% of the meta and stuff like that. But at any point in time in Modern, there's always at least 50 decks that people are realistically playing in some non-zero number. Right. And if there's 50 decks in a format, that means that to have it be completely even, every single one of those 50 decks would need to take up about 2% of the meta.
Right.
It's not embarrassing to be a little under 2%. That's okay. And even if we're under 1%, I don't know, 0.8 or 0.9 or wherever we're sitting at right now, that's still fine if some other decks are at 4 and 5%. Sometimes the meta share will just work like that. But when the format is very top heavy, like it kind of is right now, that actually makes it better for us because in Bant, you're just doing one powerful thing. So all you need to do is just adjust your creature base to what the format's doing.
Amen.
Okay, if you're playing against a bunch of permanents on a table, instead of playing, I don't know, a copy of Kira in a fourth, Bird of Paradise or whatever, you can put in like 2 Deputy Detentions on top of the 4 Skyclave apparition you're playing. If you're playing as blue-white control and you're seeing a lot of rhinos and stuff, okay, you've got like 4 to 5 flex spots. Play Chalice of Avoid in your main deck. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to keep up with what the format is doing, and there's just no reason that this deck just can't continue winning. Like, remember when Uro was hands down the best deck in Modern,
Right.
but because Uro was the hands down the best deck in Modern, there were a lot of people out there that were just absolutely kicking the teeth out of them. Like, we, in the month of January, absolutely curb stomped that deck. And thanks to us curb stomping that deck, we curb stomped everything else too.
Amen.
So, and that was a great month for us. Over the entire month of January, in all relevant tournament Magic, the Spirit community had, this is not even an exaggeration, this is literally what happened. We had about an 81%
Yes.
win rate.
Yes,
it
we
was
did.
absurd.
Yes, it
And,
was.
like,
And it was the most undervalued deck. Like right now, like the most under thought of deck right now for me is Eldrazi Tron. And we were like winning at that clip at 80%. And I'm like, why is nobody picking this deck up? Why is nobody playing?
Like, and I don't know if anybody remembers my videos from then too. I told people about this in the very beginning of January. Like, when January came around, I'm like, yo, guys, this is not just me being a Spirits main in like memeing. Like, don't get me wrong, every now and then I will meme with the deck. Like, I made like a whole budget video, kind of like your podcast did,
Right.
where I'm like, you can literally rent this deck from card holders for $2 and still have like 3 Aether Vials in your deck. Like, that was a thing that I did. Right. Like, you can, just mess around and play stuff like Kataki in your board before it was like good like it is now.
Right.
You can play stuff like multiple Kiras to play around the Jund deck. But at the time, I'm like, guys, this deck is legitimately fantastic right now. And it's not just me having expertise with it. It's really good. People should pick this deck up because you'll see, like, I'm absolutely destroying these Uro decks. People were like resolving Omnath and getting up to like 35 and then dying because they can't do anything about what we're doing.
Right.
Please pick this deck up if you want to win. And there were a lot of people who, played during the month of January and just bodied people left and right because, like, I even saw people playing cards like Run Afoul and stuff like that, like, just after the data dumps happened. This wasn't until like week 4. But like, no, definitely not on like week 1.
Okay.
But like, I saw an Uro player playing against me, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, cool. This should be like not a borderline buy, but fairly easy for us.
Right.
And my opponent played a Run Afoul. I'm like, whoa, that's okay. Yeah. That is a card I considered like for a Pioneer board, and I actually ran it for a little bit in Simic. But okay. You're keeping up with Reddit, opponent. I see you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, just stuff like that has happened because of how good the deck was. And the more top heavy the format gets, the easier it is for a deck like ours to adjust.
Right.
Because there's enough good hate cards in white, there's enough reactive cards in blue, and there's enough good spirits that do things as catch-alls at the 3 mana spot that make it totally possible for us to adjust to whatever the format's doing. And all we have to do is kind of put our noses to the ground and we can start winning, not necessarily at those rates again, but start winning quite a bit. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me go back to the questions real quick. Let me ask you real quick. What would you say is your favorite spirit?
Rattlechains, hands down, not close.
Why?
Not even close. So first, I absolutely love the ability to give my creatures hexproof, and that part is very good. But enabling your entire deck to have flash is just the biggest chef's kiss possible for me. Like, even if all of the cards were 2/2 vanilla flyers, I don't even know that I would mind as long as they had flash. Like, Mausoleum Wanderer could have almost no text. If it was just a 1/1 flash flying, I would probably still try to play it. It wouldn't be anywhere near as good, obviously, but I would at least try to play it. Like, I'm already not that sad about playing cards like Spectral Sailor. So when you get to do all of these things with upside, like draw Skull Captain, flash, protect your creatures, maybe pump, you can do things like, playing Kira in response to a fetch land so that they can not use a removal spell that costs whatever they were trying to fetch for. Stuff like that. Like, doing all of this cool stuff at instant speed instead of having to do it at sorcery speed is such a big deal.
Amen.
And for anybody who watches me play Pioneer, not having that flash ability is a lot of why y'all see me talk shit about Empyrean Eagle so much. Like, the card is really good. I fucking hate it. Just like Collect the Company. The card's really good, and I absolutely hate it. But Rattle Chains takes all of that out. You just get to play your deck at instant speed. So if you want to jam counter spells like Lofty Denial, you can do that. If you want to play your creatures that are normally not great because they're sorcery speed, like Drog Skull Captain, well, that's fixed.
Right.
And it just makes the game flow so much smoother for you when you don't necessarily have to follow the normal rules of the game. Things that break the rules of the game are inherently powerful for a reason. There's a reason that they don't make many cards that break the natural rules of the game.
Right. Well, let me ask you, because I did an episode on Rattle Chains, and I don't know if I asked you this question, but I put it out there to the Spirit community, and I posted this. We have Drug School Captain, and we have Supreme Phantom. Those are our true lords. I asked the Spirit community, is Rattle Chains a pseudo lord? What is your thoughts?
So,
because the fact that it gives other spirits
it
flash.
Keyword, but it doesn't give +1.
It doesn't give flash.
It gives everybody a
just keyword. That's it. So it's a pseudo lord.
Yeah. Yeah, I can accept pseudo lord, because I think to be an actual lord, it's got to give the +1. Like, even if you have, like, I don't know, like a terrible tribe like Illusions with Lord of the Unreal, that's still a lord. But if you only give a keyword, that's like lord adjacent. I can accept pseudo lord.
Okay. No, it's just because the fact that I have a friend of mine, he plays Minotaurs, and all his lords technically are keyword lords. But if you look at...
Oh, so like the Menace 1, for example?
Yes.
And like the +1/+2 or whatever they are?
See, but the thing is it in... Oh, you know what? I have my deck right here. Let me bring out Rattle Chains, because I want to make sure that I read this correctly. See, I'm happy I brought my deck with me. You know? I did something smart today. Look at me. I'm proud of me. Okay, because Rattle Chains...
everybody who's watching right now, don't let him lie to you. He brings it everywhere.
Shh. Don't tell my secret. I actually do. You know, when I'm busy, like, you know, when I'm done with work, I go to my local LGS and start playing. You know, shh. No, but Rattle Chain says when you cast a spirit spell, as though they had flash. It doesn't give the keyword flash. It says as though they had flash. So that's the reason why I say it's more of a pseudo than an actual lord.
I'm gonna count that. That's effectively the same thing. Okay. Like, because right now, if it were printed today, that exact same sentence would literally just say
all
spirit creature
flash.
spells you control have flash.
Okay.
Like, they would have worded it differently if it was printed in 2021. So I can accept that as the same kind of pseudo lord.
All right. Well, let me, since we focused a lot in Modern, okay, I know a lot of the Spirit community going, hey, Dwight, there's another format that's not really that popular right now in paper, but it's really big in MTGO world, and we need some love. And it's Pioneer. What do you think of the spirits in the current Pioneer meta?
I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Spirits is absurdly good in Pioneer.
It's ridiculous.
And I'm really glad that this is another one I can say I was right on, because, like, I was telling people, like, hey, again, this is not me being, just, hey, I'm, the spirits guy, play spirits because I say so. No, I'm telling people play spirits because I think it's really good. Like, the only bad matchup that spirits has in the entirety of Pioneer are the mono red burn decks. That's it.
Really?
So I'm so serious.
Really?
Like, the burn decks are, like, both mono red and red white are pretty annoying for spirits to deal with. They're just like hyper efficient decks that we have a hard time dealing with because our 2 and 3 mana things are solved by their 1 mana removal spells. And we don't have Aether Vial to help Rattle Chains play around those things. It's difficult.
Well, that's why we have
outside of
that's why we have Watcher of the Spheres. It's the the replacement for the Aether Vial.
Right, but costing 2 and costing 1 is a huge deal. And
Mm.
your Aether Vial dies to the same removal spells in this format. So it is a pretty tough matchup, but realistically, you're playing a blue-white deck, and the white part of things, if you want it to, can help that matchup a lot. And that's a lot of why I've, adopted like blue-white spirits in Pioneer and have been doing a lot of winning with that too.
Okay.
So especially now that we have things like Portable Hole to help provide us with like a real removal spell that we, actually want to play on purpose.
Okay.
So but almost all of the rest of the decks in Pioneer are really good matchups for us. Like Niv Mizzet, most of the removal costs at least 2. Well, that sucks against spirits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing like decks like Blue-Black Control, outside of exactly Shark Typhoon, we can handle pretty much everything they're doing. And even if you are playing Shark Typhoon, we still have cards like Brazen Borrower, Nebelgast Herald, Shacklegeist to help control those big 5/5 and 6/6 tokens. There's a Jeskai Ascendancy combo deck that I won't go so far as to say it's laughable for us, but realistically, they're trying to resolve 2 spells that cost 3 each.
Okay.
That's pretty easy for us to handle as a whole. And one of them is blue, so we can even Mystical Dispute the Jeskai Ascendancy.
That's wonderful.
So, like, there's the Hidden Strings combo deck, which, to be fair, is pretty good, just not against us. So, like, Pour Over the Pages is pretty weak to a Mystical Dispute. Everything else in their deck is usually handled by a Spell Queller. And we generally have a pretty decent time as long as we're able to find either a Spell Queller or a Lofted Denial, or God help them if we find both. And even then, we can still slide into things like Damping Sphere if we do find ourselves having a hard time with that.
Okay.
There's decks like Mono Black and the Dreadhorde Arcanist deck that can get hairy, but they only play so much removal. We play infinite creatures, so it usually works pretty well for us because, like, our Supreme Phantoms are blocking all of the 2/1s out of both of their decks just super efficiently. All of the removal, like Fatal Push and stuff, a lot of the time that's going to be weak to our things like Rattle Chains. We don't get to play Drog Skull Captain, but honestly, 1 or 2 Rattle Chains is usually good enough when they're stuck playing lands like Agadeem's Awakening and stuff that deal themselves damage.
Right.
We're already flying, and they can't typically do too much about that. And if you really want to hedge against these decks, you can play cards like Rest in Peace and Grafdigger's Cage to help out against those. So, like, we're okay there. There's the Auras deck, which is actually pretty hard for most of the format, but we're the one deck that gets to play Shacklegeist and Nebelgast Herald. So, like, if you try to play Voltron and suit up 1 creature and make it like a 9/10 or whatever, we don't care. We just tap it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just one of those things that's like, oh, this works out really well for us. And until people started like actively trying to go out of their way to hate spirits,
Right.
we just like ran people over left and right. Like, the only deck that I would say, other than Burn, that gives us an extremely hard time sometimes is the Jund Sacrifice deck, because exactly Mayhem Devil's a pain in the ass.
Right.
But if you can keep exactly Mayhem Devil off the table, the entire rest of their deck typically doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, I was playing one game, and I don't remember whether I was streaming or just did a video, but I was playing Simic Spirits. No, that's false. I was playing Mono Blue Spirits. And I was at 1 life. My opponent had a Corvold, the Fey King, Cursed Fey King, whatever the dragon's called.
Right.
The dragon was like a 22/22. My opponent had like 9 cards in hand. And because I had a Nebelgast Herald on the table, I won that game. Like, it was just...
Are you kidding me? Like, that's stupid.
It was actually insane. Like,
that's ridiculous.
It was like, just... You get away with some stuff as spirits if you just like know what you're doing. And in the format, you get to play a lot of the same creatures that you're playing in Modern, so you essentially get to play basically a Modern legal deck, except you're playing it in a format where the removal is much worse. Like, there's no prismatic ending in Pioneer.
I was gonna ask you, what? So, what is the difference? So, like, me personally, I like Modern. I enjoy playing Modern. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get into MTG eventually. I'm here with paper.
Yeah.
So, like, what is like really the difference between the Modern build compared to the Pioneer build? I know for a fact it's Drog Skull Captain. You can't Aether Vials, but I mean, what else? Like. You know.
I mean, no, there's no draw captain, and that's pretty annoying sometimes. There's no Aether Vial, but the Bant decks in Modern are already not even playing Aether Vial, so that's not that different.
Right.
The biggest change from Modern to Pioneer is actually the lands.
Mm.
The mana
pathways.
base is hands down the biggest difference between Pioneer and Modern. And because like most of the creature base, like I said, it's almost the same as what you get to play in Modern,
Right.
with a few very small changes. Like there's no Kira, Great Glass Spinner, but that's already like a flex spot at best. There's no Drogsko Captain, which is annoying, but people are playing Empyrean Eagle, and that's kind of whatever off of Coco's. It's almost the same.
Right.
Not no, obviously not quite, but it's almost the same. Um, there's no Aether Vial, but like I said, the band decks are already not playing Aether Vial in Modern, so who cares about that difference? And the lands, though, is a huge, huge, huge deal. Like, specifically, Bant is actually not that bad as far as the three color mana base.
Really?
Like, no, you don't get Cavernous Souls, but,
Right.
excuse me, but you still get to play all the cards that you would typically want to play in a deck that is very base blue-green and is a small splash of white. Like, you're not playing, too many copies of Skyclave Apparition in your main deck in Pioneer, so you already don't need to lean ultra heavy into white like you do in Modern, where you straight up need all 4 copies. So you get to play cards like Botanical Sanctum as like a 3 or sometimes even a 4x in Pioneer, and that's okay because your turn ones are always Mausoleum Wanderer or Mana Dork.
Okay.
You get to play additional copies of Breeding Pool. You don't miss cards like Cavern of Souls anywhere near as much because the card Counterspell isn't in Pioneer. So you're not playing against counterspells that are anywhere near as good.
Okay.
The only deck that plays counterspells in the entire format of Pioneer, other than Mystical Dispute, which is annoying, everybody's playing Mystical Dispute, is the blue-black control deck, which them counterspelling your cards isn't even your main concern anyway. It's the removal spells. So, like, you don't necessarily miss Cavern too much, but it is a thing that still comes up. Like, people are playing Mana Confluence because there's no Cavern of Souls. Like, I've seen some really old lists playing cards like Unclaimed Territory, but I don't really like that right now. There's a lot of Shocklands because, there's no such thing as like Seachrome Coast.
Right.
So like that doesn't exist in Pioneer. There's no Moreland Haunt in Pioneer.
No, that sucks.
And that sucks. I get so mad about that all the time.
But there is a Port Town.
That's kind of where I was going next. God, it's so bad.
But you get the pathways.
Yeah, and the pathways are actually pretty good in specifically Bant again, because you get to, have your blue-green pathway. So if you want to just play it as blue for all of your spells, great. If you need to play a turn 1 Mana Dork, cool, play it as a green half, and that's cool too. Like, that means that you're still free to play things like a turn 2 Hallowed Fountain and then do what you got to do from there. Like, all of these paths are pathways. All of these paths are okay in Pioneer, so the mana base isn't all that bad, even though you're sometimes stuck playing 1 or 2 mana confluences. Blue-white is the deck that struggles with the mana base, and well, that's
Really?
where I was gonna start cursing at Port Town, because like playing a 2-deck mana base in Pioneer for only being 2 colors, it is goddamn embarrassing to try to play a 2-color mana base. It's so bad.
I can't believe that it's that difficult.
It's awful. So, for example, my Pioneer blue-white list, I'm playing 4 Hallowed Fountains, 4 Glacial Fortress, and 4 Hengegate Pathways. Those are my 12 dual lands that I have access to.
I'm assuming you're running 21, so there's 9 more to go.
Yeah, so I'm playing 1 Mana Confluence, 1 Basic Plains that I usually hate seeing. Like, for the most part, I don't even want the Basic Plains. I just have it there because sometimes you'll catch somebody playing like Settle the Record or something, or like a Field of Ruin or something.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I've got the 1 Basic Plains, and I usually hate drawing it. And then the other 7 are just a giant stack of islands.
Really?
There's not enough good dual lands to make it worth playing. And like, everybody who has watched me stream will straight up know there is absolutely nothing under this fucking sun that's going to make me put a Port Town in a sleeve again. Like, it's just not happening. Like, the number of times Port Town has made me mulligan a hand that with any other dual land, even like a Hallowed Fountain, if Hallowed Fountain made me take 4 damage, I would probably play 8 before I played any Port Towns.
I'm telling you,
It's so
you
bad.
like I hate to say because I know how much you disdain Port Town, and then you have people sending you your Port Towns, and you have your little, I guess your bonfire chimenea where you burn the Port Towns. There's a part of me that like secretly
Oh,
wants to get like a playset in foil and non-foil and just hold them off to the side so you can keep on burning them. So when there are no more Port Towns, I go, no, there's 8 left in the world, and Andre's not going to burn these.
I've got a stack in front of me right now, actually. You can
There you go. I hear them in the background.
that in that entire stack is Port Towns. There's like
Ugh.
15 or 16 over here.
And I know you
Um,
I know you hate those cards. So let me
they're
ask you
so
real
bad.
quick,
I can't wait.
why, like this stupefies me, and I just Skyclave Apparition. It's a generic in 2 white, 2/2 Spirit Cleric. It is such a great deck in Modern. Why is it a flop in Pioneer?
Um, 2 reasons. So first, the threats in Pioneer that you generally would want to handle with removal for our deck are usually better handled by us just killing the opponent instead. Um, and that's gonna be like, when you're playing against things like, say, mono black aggro, you're playing against things like, um, God, what even would you want to? Oh, duh, there's like a humans deck, a black white humans deck that's running around. Um, what else would you even want it again? Oh, duh, Auras is another big one. So those are a few decks that you would typically think you would want Skyclave Apparition in, and when you do play them, they're not bad against any of those matchups. But realistically, so many creature decks exist in Pioneer that there is near infinite removal. And a lot of the decks are ultra low to the ground because they have to just compete with the good combo decks in Pioneer, like the Just Guy Ascendancy deck, like the taking or not taking turns, like the Lotus Field combo deck. That a lot of the times your Skyclave apparitions are going to be like 3 mana to solve a 1 or sometimes 2 mana problem. And that's exactly the opposite of what a tempo deck wants to be doing. Like, we already want to be the ones who are presenting the 1 mana and 2 mana problems and making our opponent spend 3 mana to do those.
Right.
So why are we subjecting ourselves to being on the other end of that equation in Pioneer? The answer is we're not. Where in Modern, a lot of the cards are, I mean, there's also a lot of things that are low to the ground, right? Like there's Dragon Rage Channelers, there's Ragavan, stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff that specifically Skyclave Apparition would help with are generally against the things that are still able to cost like 2 and 3 mana. So, like, you'll catch your like Teferis, you'll catch your Ren and Sixes, all of these things that our opponents are playing. You'll still see people playing like 4 mana Omnath. So, and there's Aether Vial to make it a lot more reasonable. So you get to see a lot of people playing Skyclave Apparition in Modern, and there's a lot of very real targets. But in Pioneer, either it's just a 2/2 ground pounder for 2 against all these combo decks, and who wants that?
Right.
Or it's 3 mana removal spell for a 1 mana problem, and who wants that? Or you're rightfully killing something like, say, an Eidolon at a Great Revel, but these are all decks that are playing a bunch of 1 mana removal, like Shock, Wild Slash, Wizard's Lightning, stuff like that. So you're basically signing your 3 mana creature up to still die to a 1 mana removal spell, and as the tempo deck, that's us actively down tempoing ourselves. So Skyclave Apparition is just not as good in Modern, for those 2 reasons. A, it just doesn't really have much of a job in Pioneer, and the removal is much more present in Pioneer than it is in Modern. So we end up just kind of like losing Skyclave Apparition on both fronts there.
Mm. Well, let me ask you, as a person who doesn't really play Pioneer, I'm considering getting into it as well. I believe you should get into every format and test the waters. I know there's a lot of flavors to spirits, and that's one thing I enjoy. What I'm hearing from you and what I've seen is that there's Bant, there's Azorius, there's Mono Blue, there's Simic. I mean, Are those the only flavors out there? And which flavor would you recommend for? Uh, uh, I'm not gonna. I hate to say a novice of Pioneer coming into Pioneer. What would you recommend? Which flavor?
Sure. So for most people who are getting into Pioneer with almost no format knowledge, or at least not enough to say like you can confidently brew, I would say jump on Bant. Bant is hands down the most powerful build of spirits available, and Collect the Company is very good in Pioneer. Just because I don't like it does not mean it's not powerful. Y'all should play Collect the Company. The card's good. Um, but you're right in that there's basically a million different flavors of spirits in Pioneer, and I've tried. God, I feel like I've tried everything over the last like 2 or 3 months now.
I think you've dipped in. Yeah, I think you did what even a Jeskai, if I'm mistaken.
Just like everything. Like I've played like a blue-red hybrid dragon spirits build that played like Silumgar Scorn, a Curious Obsession spirits base, but like also rattle chains to help protect it. Like I played that for a little bit. I played a blue-white build that had Spell Queller. I also played a blue-white build that did not have Spell Queller but did have Luris. I 4-1 with both builds.
Really?
Played Simic Spirits with Nightpack Ambusher in the sideboard. So shout outs to somebody on Discord because I did not come up with that. So I saw somebody playing Simic Spirits and they trophied with it. So I was like, oh, I played that deck last year. It was awesome. Let me try it again. And somebody mentioned Nightpack Ambusher, but they mentioned playing two of them. I was like, no, that card's
Mm,
way better than even you guys are giving it credit for. Screw
right.
that. So I put in like one or two additional green sources and I played three instead of two.
Okay.
And Nightpack Ambusher was hands down the best thing to come out of the sideboard. And like I immediately went like what was it like I think 4-1 in the first league I played with it, and then like I trophied, and then I full rolled a preliminary event with it, and I was like, oh okay, so this deck is just like actually super good again. Nice, I like it. Um, there's Mono Blue Spirits, which of course is just it's almost the exact same as the historic deck, just like a couple of upgrades. But like the deck's good there too. Like you get to play Ascendant Spirit, and one of the cards I was really high on for the Curious Obsession builds was the one from Forgotten Realms. It's called You See a Guard Approach, and it only costs one blue, and you get to choose between either tapping an opponent's creature or giving one of your creatures hexproof.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this card is like the blossoming defenses that you already want to play out of Simic, except all versions of Spirits can play this. So why am I not trying this out? So I did try it out. And it performed. The card was great. Like the tap mode came up quite a bit when like tapping opponent Shark Typhoon tokens, tapping Aura's creatures and stuff. And the hexproof came up a bunch. Like, people would just actively try to get rid of our creatures when we put Curious Obsessions on them and stuff. And you just get to play this 1 mana blue instant, which is basically dive down, except it has two different modes. And let's be real, a reason that Spirits wins a lot of the time, outside of the fact that flying is just busted, is just the deck can afford it to have a little bit of flexibility here and there. And
Right.
that's why you see so many builds of Spirits. Like you see Coco Spirits, you see Blue White that's focused around Watcher the Spheres. You see all of these Curious Obsession things that I've been trying out. And the more flexibility you can give your decks, really the better, because that's what allows you to adjust to a metagame. So when you get to have the flexibility between hurting their plan or protecting your own in the same card for 1 mana, that was exactly the kind of thing I was like, why would I not jump on this?
Right.
So yeah, so like the card's been really good, and it's contributed to a lot of these different flavors of Spirits, just all feeling really good. Minus the blue red one. That was medium, but whatever. All the rest of them felt really good.
All right. Well, let me ask you real quick. I know you're heavy into MTGO. Do you play Arena at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do play a decent amount of historic. I play almost no standard. Actually, this is pretty funny. So the reason I am playing a lot of arena is because if you just draft a lot, then you can get a pretty reasonable collection if you're just like I'm not gonna say half decent at draft because you do have to, I think, be pretty good at draft to like average 3 to 4 wins out of the 7 in your premier draft events.
Right.
But if you can manage that, you can effectively have like an entire arena collection basically for free. Um, so that's what I've been doing. I've been putting a little bit of money slash gems into doing the mastery things that's on there where you like get extra rewards for just playing the game.
Right.
But outside of that, I'm not spending money on arena. Like that's all they get out of me. Like I do a bunch of drafts and I don't know, I typically get to play a decent amount, like I don't know, like an hour every few days,
Okay.
or sometimes like I'll forget that Magic Online has the weekly maintenances or whatever, and then that just turns into like an hour long historic arena stream, and it's not bad. Like I like the platform a lot less than regular Magic Online. Never mind the format differences. I actually just like regular Magic Online more.
Right.
Um, it just feels more like the complex Magic I want to be playing. Like Arena is a good platform, but it feels more like a mobile game, and I don't want a mobile game on my PC. I want a complex game on my PC.
I hear you. No, because the only reason why I'm bringing this up is that
Yeah.
you brought it to my attention about the platinum mythic rank player scenario
Right.
that Watsy doesn't tell us. I still shout them out. It's like whoever this individual is, you still deserve a shout out.
Yeah.
If I got to do it. Now, it's kind of funny. In Historic, it's usually just nothing more than a mono blue snow build. Now, there was a person I shouted out, I believe, on Sunday. Okay, they're a platinum mythic rank player, and I wish I knew who this person was. But they came in first place with a Bant build in Historic.
Ooh.
And
Cool.
I have the deck list here in front of me. They ran two Glasspool Mimics, two Realm Walkers, which surprised me, three Shacklegeists, three Guardian of Faith, four Skyclave Apparitions, four Spectral Sailors, four
That is a
Empyrean
lot of 3
Eagles,
drops.
four Supreme Phantoms, and four Rattle Chains. Now, instance, they're running 3 Lofty
Okay.
Denial and 4 Coco.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, I didn't even know Coco was in Historic. I mean, it must be
Oh
something.
yeah.
It must be something new that they just recently added with all these 700 plus cards that they decided, hey, you know what, we're just going to throw that lot in there. But yeah, I mean,
No, actually, Coco's been in the format for a pretty decent amount of time. Like, Spirits in Historic has not been the best proponent for Coco,
right.
but there's 2 decks that play Coco that have been running around for a while. There's Coco Bant Angels, and there's also a Jund Sacrifice deck that sometimes plays Collect the Company.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know that because I'm sitting here like, it shocked me. I'm like, I'm going through my list and I'm like, okay, and who am I going to shout out this week? And Nixon, I'm like, huh? Bant? Historic? Okay. Whoever this person is, they definitely need a shout out. Let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
You know how I'm a little different than you, and this is one, that's what I love about different content makers out there. What do you think of the shout out section that I do, like being the cheerleader for this Spirit Squad?
I actively love it. So, obviously we do it in like a very different fashion where like you make it an entire segment of your show to specifically shout people out. But even when like I'll see a deck list or something from somebody, or if I see like an idea from somebody, for example, when like I wish I knew the name of the person who posted it, but like about the Nine Pack ambushes just earlier, like I think it's just great to give credit where credit is due, but also like people just like being recognized, especially when you're playing something that's usually kind of off meta, like Spirits is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, we see you out here and doing a great job. That should be celebrated. And that's awesome because, like, there's a reason that Magic Online gives you a literal trophy when you 5-0 because it feels good to see that, that bit of accomplishment. It feels good to be recognized for it. So that's why you get lauded with like a literal trophy when you get your 5-0. And it's awesome because like who doesn't want a trophy when you do something great? So the fact that people are like yourself are like giving these very active shout outs is kind of awesome.
Well, the way I look at it is, you and I are both spirit content makers, and I think, I don't know if there's, I know in the very beginning, like, I'd say about 2 years ago, 2 years ago, yeah, maybe about 3 years ago, when Supreme Phantom first came out, there was a gentleman named Rift. He's actually in charge of the Discord group.
Oh yeah.
In spirits. He was one of the first people to come out and make content, and then Tuesday Tastic, based out of Utah. He started making spirit content, and I shattered my back. I shattered my L1, L2, L3. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. Now I can walk. I can, I can salsa merengue with my wife, but you know, we were limited in spirit content makers. Now it's now the way I look at it's you and I. And personally, I've been calling for the magic community. I've been calling for the spirit community. I want more. More doesn't mean competition. More means diversity of thought, more of inclusion, where we can see other people perform and learn from their strengths and their weaknesses. And each person has their own little thing.
Yeah.
I personally, I enjoy watching you, especially on, like I say, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays, or maybe Wednesdays and Thursdays, when you play, and it's just like, okay, what little spin, what little twist did he do today? Awesome. I saw you play the Elementals deck. That deck plays like butter. But one thing I enjoyed watching you play that is because I was like, okay, where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? How can I attack this deck? As a spear player, I'm looking through your eyes, because you play spirits just like I do. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I'm in this situation, how do I go and attack Andre? Or how do I attack someone else who is piloting that deck? And it's like, I love that. It's something that Nikachu MTG does, but it's like, I wish more of the community would go and make more spirit content. This is a great tribe, and I feel bad for people like, I guess, zombies. They don't have anybody. Vampires, they don't have anybody. But because we do, you and I are here, I want more. I can't get enough. It's like Marvel movies. I can't get enough of Marvel movies.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm very, very hyped for more Marvel movies too. But
I can't wait for
specifically
Shang-Chi coming
I
out.
guess the
I'm
content
excited.
creation end of things.
I'm sorry?
It's really good that, like I said, specifically about the content creation end of things, though, it's been really good that not only obviously are there people like myself now who are, picking up the deck, wanting to play it more, getting results with it, and then like broadcasting those results, which is awesome. But also, like you said, other people are picking up as well. So like there's like the legacy crew that does a lot of good things. There's Nikachu, whose page is basically blown up in the last like year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. Like I was medium aware of him before, and now he's just blown up to where a lot of his videos are doing is like super huge, to the point where like I was actually pretty happy that he gave me a shot and interviewed me on his channel at one point for like a whole Monday show or a whole morning show. And I was like, oh well, that's awesome, because like you didn't have to give me a shot. Sweet. And there's just like a lot of people who are definitely starting to put themselves out there, like on Twitch, on YouTube, stuff like that. And there's yourself, who like you have a whole podcast now, so like that's awesome. There's just so much content now, and I do hope to just see a lot more of that coming up in the future too, because like there's the whole Innistrad set, which, by the way, I need to either yell at somebody or throw a brick or give a handshake, and I don't know which it is, to somebody over at Wizards of the Coast. But the pre-constructed deck that is coming out of Innistrad,
the commander,
is literally called
Spirit
Is it a
Squadron?
commander deck?
It's a
Yeah,
commander
Spirit
Squadron.
Squadron. And I'm just like, whichever one of y'all watched my channel and did not give me props for saying Spirit Squad, I'm gonna throw a brick at y'all.
Dude, they didn't tell you right now. I heard it from what's the name, from Gavin Varhey. You're the face of the image on the box.
Oh, is that what's happening here? Nice. Okay. So I will happily. Actually, it's really funny. I wanted to have one of my friends who is very good at things like graphic design. I actually wanted to have him kind of like come up with a rattle chains, but like with my face on it. so that I could like have that as like a cool little logo / emote for Twitch or whatever.
Hmm.
Like I still want to have him do that, so
And
I'll
can you?
have to like hit him up about how much
And
he charges and stuff
I'm
like that, so I
happy.
can do that.
I'm actually happy you brought that up because not too many like when I was doing my you know what Wanty ended up letting the what did I say was the werewolf out of the bag and yada yada and everybody brought out
Yeah.
all these cards and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, nobody talked about these commander sects. Like, there are two for over here. One's a zombie, one's a witch. The other one is vampires. The other one is spirits. We have the names, and nobody's talking about these names. Nobody's talking about these particular tribes. I was like, did somebody bump their head and say, "Oh, I'm not going to talk about these"? For me in the spirit community, when I saw Spirit Squadron, I was like, I'm in. Yay! I'm giddy. I'm a jovial boy. I wanted to ask you permission. Do I have your permission to say Spirit Squad? Because I think it's a brilliant thing to say. I didn't want to steal it from you. I want to borrow it from you.
No, by all means. But yeah, so like, but I saw that name and I was just like, which one of you mother, you know?
And they better be good.
But
all I know, these
maybe that'll
spirits,
also help the name stick.
yeah,
Oh my god, if the deck isn't like
this better be
actually
good.
absurd,
It has
I'm
to
gonna
be
really
good.
mad.
I'll be irate. You have no clue. I will flip tables. I might just fly to Seattle, go knock on the door. I'm like, can I see Mark Rosewater, please? And then get there and flip his table. Like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing, guys? Like, come on.
Word, like,
So let me ask you real quick. You and
yeah.
I have discussed spirits, from modern to pioneer to historic. Let me ask you, if Rosewater or Gavin Varhey came up to you today and said, "Hey, Andre, you're a spirit master. You've been kicking ass, taking names, and we want you to design a particular spirit because MTG Ectoplasm, Dwight over there, here's one, and we want to see what you come up with." What would be your number one card that you want them to build in spirits?
Is it a reasonable card or unreasonable?
You know what? I'll let you decide. How about that? Because you know what I'm gonna say.
In that case,
You know what I'm gonna say, and let me just tell you, I told it to Nikachu. Nikachu 100% agreed with me. He's like, "Yeah, that's a viable card."
all right. So I guess I'll be reasonable because if I'm unreasonable, then I'm just gonna print a really busted one drop.
Okay.
But
You know
so
what you know what I'm gonna say.
reasonable in the vein of things that actually could be printed. So a thing that I want that actually could be printed would just be a blue and a white for a 2/1 flying Thalia that's a spirit. I want its only creature type to be spirit because it just should not be compatible with humans or anything else off of Cavern of Souls. So just spirit and legendary so that these effects can't stack if you play like 3 of them.
You might actually get that. And it just
That's what I'm saying. Like that one, this is actually like reasonable.
Hear me out, Andre, what I'm going to tell you. I think it's, instead of a blue and a white, I think it's going to be a double white, and it's going to be in Crimson Vow, where you're going to see not a 2/1, but a 2/2 first strike Thalia spirit. Because I don't think she
I don't want
made
first strike. I just want it to fly.
Well, it's going to fly. It's going to have flying and first strike, because she didn't make it out of Eldrazi Moon.
Oh, is that like a whole story thing where Thalia died?
I'm just saying, I don't think she made it. I think she's gone.
Right.
I actually think that's one of the cards that we should expect in this upcoming deck, like upcoming set. That's I'm just throwing it out there, maybe, but I think it's a little too on the nose, Andre. I don't know.
I would very clearly be very happy about that. For the sake of death and taxes archetypes, I don't know that they would make it a double white. Because like it's too easy to put regular Thalia and this Thalia into like a regular Death and Taxes deck. Like those would stack together a little too well. But if they made it, I would not complain. And okay, let's be real. If they made it, I would more than not complain. I would be super happy and snap by 4 of them. and not
Extended.
care to the
You buy
legendary.
the
I'd just be like, here's 4 just in case.
I can see you buying the extended art foils with the extra finish and yada yada yada.
I don't do foils, but like
I
the
do.
extended art definitely.
Oh, I do. Like the deck that I have right here in front of me. It's literally
Yeah.
a foiled extended art. It's ridiculous. I have the expeditions. I have the masterpiece, Aether vials that are foiled. Yeah, like
Nice.
like when I play Magic, they're gonna like, dude, that's a tier 2 deck, and I'm like, yeah, but this tier 2 deck's shiny, pretty, and it's gonna kick your butt.
Right? No, to be fair, like I actually did have the deck foiled out like a couple of years ago. And then I was just like, I already don't really want to be playing paper magic, so like why do I have all of this?
Right.
So I was just like, I don't really need to keep all of this. I'll just downgrade to non-foil, save myself like probably like $1,000. And then right after I did that is when COVID hit. So I was like, oh, well, now I feel super justified. So I'm like, I'm already not really wanting to play too much paper magic on my own.
Right.
But then I can't play paper magic. So what was I doing with this deck? And then on like my own end of things, like also just the quality of foils they've been making has been really hit or miss.
Yeah.
So, and admittedly, I know that I shuffle my own cards pretty hard. So like if they're going to be making subpar foils, I don't want to like destroy them to the point of all being like letter C's and stuff. So I'm just like, I'm never gonna get my value back out of these other than playing them, which to be fair is enough value for a lot of people, but whatever, that's not me. Okay. So I do have all of the cards that can be cool and extended art in cool and extended art. Like I'm gonna be getting the secret lair spell quellers. I did buy the secret lairs for the full text basics because I wanted those. Because let's be real, Spirits is already kind of an infuriating deck to play against for most people. So like when you play something like just, hey, here's like a turn 1 Mausoleum Wanderer off of this full text basic, next turn play a full text Plains into a Thalia. Like most spell-based decks are gonna see that kind of opener in rage.
Well, yeah, I would be irate if I saw those. Like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna read all that shenanigans. Get out of here.
But I cannot wait to just, somebody's going to be so mad, and I don't know who's going to be angry first, but I'm going to just relish in it so hard.
Well, let me begin by saying this. You brought up Dahlia as a spirit. I think it's going to happen. This I for some reason I just got that feeling. I got to ask you about I got to put it out the air so people hear it from or see it from this point on. Peekaboo. It's the spirit that I've discussed with you, and I want everybody else in the world to know about it as well. It's 1 blue, 1/1 flying creature that has peek, meaning that you can look at opponent's hand and draw a card. Andre, your thoughts?
I want that card to happen, but I think it is completely unreasonable. It's a flying card. That card cannot be printed. But
Ragavan came out with 3 abilities. Ragavan has 3 abilities. All I'm just saying is a flying creature. Let me just look at your hand.
Rags is busted. I'm aware.
And I just want to draw a card.
Fully...
What's there more to do? I'm just looking at your hand and drawing a card, and the card just happens to fly. And it's playing a game of peekaboo. Peek-a-boo.
I get it. It's an adorable name.
The flavor's delicious.
We do not see eye to eye about how good that card is. I think that card is like unreasonably busted. I would slam 4 of those into my deck today. Like I would skip a couple of hours of sleep to hit my LGSs until I had 4 of those today.
Okay. Then
I would.
I told you about the other one I thought of, right? Ghost Attendant?
I don't remember.
Okay, Ghost Attendant's a 1 white, a 1/1 flyer. And basically, Ghost Quarter, it's that on that spirit.
Yeah. I can get behind that. That's also very good, but that's not like in the unreasonably busted. It's just very good. Card, and also it's one of those spirits adjacent cards that would definitely be better in a deck like Death and Taxes than it would in a deck like Spirits, but we'd appreciate it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think of you know, back in the day, cards like the Field of the Dead. That's a moral imperative to get of. Another one, Battle Zone. No, Blast Zone. Oh, I would love to use that.
Oh God, yeah, Blast Zone sucks.
Oh, especially with Hammer Time. Oh yeah, I'll give me that Ink Moth Nexus. No, no, I'll destroy that Ink Moth
Yeah, no,
Nexus
like
all day.
Inkmoth Nexus gotta go. Like Urza Saga gotta go.
See,
I mean, Merfolk already has that, but
but now you see that the spirit that I thought of oh God, what did I call it? The ghost attendant, quarters
yeah,
attendant makes sense, right? I'm just saying, Watsy, if you're listening
yeah,
and
like
watching,
yeah, that
listen.
one.
I mean,
I think that one could be printed. Like I think yeah, like they would have to probably print that one with like some creature type that doesn't match anything else to avoid cavernous soul shenanigans.
mm,
But like that card could be printed, and I think like Spirit's probably fine
but we
because like Spirit has next to no relevance for death and taxes where that card would be best in. But we would certainly appreciate it against like just Tron.
well, you'd rather have Peekaboo, so no said.
I mean, I would definitely rather have Peekaboo. Like I would play 4 Peekaboos before I played the first Ghost Attendant, even against Tron.
Okay. Well, Andre,
But I would also play Ghost Attendant.
there you go. Well, Andre, let me just tell you, I am humbled and appreciative. Like with all the listeners that I've had come into the spirit community and listen to my show, to all those watching you, let me just say, I am humbled. I thank you for coming on my show. I appreciate it. I hope this isn't just a one of. I want you here more often. I enjoy your enthusiasm, your flair for the enjoyment of the spirit. And let me ask you, before we wrap this up, I want to make sure you have the floor. You're the guest. What would you like to share with the spirit community for all to hear?
All right. So, I mean, first and foremost, like I'm, glad to be here. Glad to see more people like yourself, obviously creating content out there. So that's always really sweet to see. Um, and thanks to other folks like Nikachu as well, who are out there promoting tribal content and doing well. That bodes good things for us too, because especially with the deck doing well, a whole Innistrad set coming, I see good things coming for proponents of
Amen.
the tribe as a whole. So that's very exciting to see for the future of people who either like spirits, want to create spirits content, or are simply looking for a deck to get into that has a pretty fervent little community pushing for it, like we do. So as far as I guess things to say or push, like yeah, like this deck can definitely do a lot of winning. Yes, you have to put the work into it, but that was always the case. Like we're playing a bunch of 2/2s in a field of Primeval Titans and Omnaths and stuff. So if you want to be rewarded for playing a deck, then Spirits will definitely give you that rewarding feel because you're going to be beating up on people left and right in a format like Modern with a bunch of 2/1 flyers. Like it just feels great. Like nobody likes losing to a bunch of Welkin turns, but we do it week in and week out because the deck's awesome. So that's just going to be a thing that I really want everybody to do.
Now, can you just tell everybody where they can, reach out to you? I know that you're changing your
Yeah.
YouTube. Please, proselytize. Please let the spirit community know where.
Okay. Sure, I can sell myself. So, as for places y'all can find me, I am on Twitch as twitch.tv/rearrangedAS, and I am restructuring my schedule for streaming as I just got a new job, so everything's all nice and awesome and stuff.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Looking forward to being a productive member of society once again. But also, I am on YouTube. You can look me up by either just like my real name, Andre Segarra, or Rearranged AS, and there's going to be still a lot of spirits content on there, whether I am able to actively stream as often or not. I'll still have time to record. So at the very least, I will be all over YouTube still.
Great.
And that's where I'll still be doing things like deck analyses, deck list overviews, gameplay videos, just all kinds of stuff on there. So if you want to see someone who is a proponent of the deck just week in and week out talking about cards that are coming out, things like analysis, things like, hey, here's a new deck list idea that I want to try out, and I don't know whether it's going to work yet, but here's my idea. Things like complete breakdowns, a relatively active comment section. All of the above can be found right on my YouTube at all times.
Awesome. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is my 50th episode. I'm glad you could join me on Twitch. I don't know if we're streaming on YouTube. I don't know. I want to, first things first, I want to thank my friends at Rec Productions, James and Kelly. These are people who do production for a living. They have hip-hop stars, rock stars, movie stars coming in here, and they decided, hey, we're going to take a chance on this humble guy who plays Magic the Gathering, and we're going to do something nice for him, and I want to thank them. If you want to find out more about them, go to recproductions.com. That's WRECK, the letter D, productions.com. Please check them out. It's a moral imperative, especially if you're in the Jersey Shore area and you want to be a rock star, a superstar, a movie star, or some, hell, you can just be me. Come and check them out, all right? So with that being said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the show. I 100% appreciate it. And remember, next time you're playing somebody, make sure they say, that's Boo Sheet. See you guys next time.